Good morning and welcome to Veterans Heartbeat on the Pulse of the Veteran, where we discuss issues of health, happiness, opportunity, and well-being of interest to the veteran community, their families, and the community who honors them.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Veterans Heartbeat, brought to you by River, the Rural Institute for Veterans Education and Research. My name is Jason Zencraft. My co-host Ed Lisowski is here with me, and he is the Executive Director of River. We welcome you to a weekly wide-ranging discussion of issues, events, opportunities, and needs in our veteran community. Morning, Ed. How you doing?
Morning, Jason.
We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Farside Signs. They create amazing-looking vehicle graphics that will drive traffic to your business. They are located at 1526 South Avenue West in Missoula. Follow them on the web, Instagram, and Facebook, or just stop on by.
This morning, we're talking to Dr. Mark Gibson, who was a ER physician, emergency room physician, for, I think, 200 years, Mark?
Yeah. Seems like it.
And Mark got into a tussle with the medical board, and recently, Judge Reynolds over in Helena determined that his due process rights were not adhered to, and basically cleared him of the issues surrounding his medical license. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, that's good enough for starters.
So Mark has had a cloud over his head for 2 years while the medical board messed around with his license. And
5 years.
5 years. I apologize. Anyway, he has been a very strong contributor to the River program, helping us with a lot of the veterans out in Montana. He has provided free prescriptions for medical marijuana cards. He has done a lot of integrative medicine with us when there was nobody else out there. And personally, I want to thank you for the time and effort.
You're welcome.
I know that you have seen a lot of the chronic pain patients out there, and you know what's coming down the pike with the Mission Continues Act, and that is they've cut their dosages way back on opiates. So we're here as a follow-up to Dr. Cruz's show last week, where he talked about his integrative medicine and his chronic pain patients and new use of ketamine. Comments, Mark?
A lot of veterans have PTSD. A lot of veterans have pain, and most veterans with PTSD have pain, and most patients with pain that are veterans have PTSD. So there is a rise in the amount of people who are trying to operate without any opiates. The pendulum swung with the VA quite a bit. The Veterans Administration was well known for prescribing large amounts of opiates to veterans who were in chronic pain. There was no way to keep a track of those because the VA didn't use the state prescription drug registry. The VA ultimately followed the CDC guidelines and misinterpreted those guidelines as a rule. So they adopted them as a definite, hard limit on how much opiates could be prescribed. And many veterans have been trying to cope with a lesser amount of pain pills. There are two issues with that. The biggest issue is anybody who's been taking a large amount of pain pills who doesn't want to get off them feels like they've been taken from them. So we're in a period of adjustment for people who are in chronic pain who've become adapted or dependent on a medication regimen that works for them. Now those folks are quite upset that those medicines are being taken from them. So the alternatives that we're providing for veterans really are in the context that the law enforcement and politicians and Veterans Administration folks are taking these opiates away without necessarily providing an alternative. The Attorney General of the United States says people should just take a Tylenol or an aspirin, and that's someone who hasn't been in severe pain, obviously. So the opportunity that we have is to help veterans, or anybody for that matter, who's in chronic pain, who no longer has a stable regimen for their pain relief. It seems to me that offering the ketamine program is a way, not the way, but a way for people to recover from their chronic pain conditions and their PTSD issues with something else. And this is an opportunity to help people who've been cut off from their opiates and they have no other options or no other obvious options. So hopefully this will end up being something that helps.
We will be talking. Actually, let's try calling Wayne. He wants to talk to you a little bit. He is one of our clients at River that has had his opiates cut way back. Okay, Mark, we got you. Did we get Wayne?
Yep, I'm here in Clinton.
Hey, Wayne, how you doing? It's Ed.
I'm above dirt.
And we got Jason in the studio here with us. Dr. Ibsen's on the phone with you now, too, okay?
Oh, good.
Hello, Wayne.
Howdy, Doc.
So, Wayne, you're a veteran, is that correct?
Yes, I am, sir.
And you receive your medical care through the VA, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
So, up until recently, you were on a regimen of opiates that kept you to where you could exercise and...
Well, right. Take care of my day-to-day chores in my home. I mean, I can't even do my own dishes anymore. I'm just as apt to get up and walk 2 steps and just go to my knees because of the damn pain as not. I can see the back of the post office from my house here, and I hadn't been over there forever, and I knew my box had stopped. It took me a half hour to walk over there and get my mail and back to the house. Up until they dropped my dosage down to 120 milligrams a day, I could do all that stuff my own self.
Did you end up with a back injury, or what was causing your pain?
I got my back all messed up in '83. I've had like 7 surgeries.
Yeah.
On my back only. It wasn't just my back that hurt,
Yeah.
I hurt my knees in the military. That's why I got discharged.
Got it.
And they've gotten to the point now where it's just hell to get up and go to the bathroom. I've worn every kind of a brace and wrap and whatnot there is known to man. And I've been doing this so long under care that in the beginning part, they tried me on everything in the world. Some of them make you so damn goofy in the head that I couldn't tolerate that.
Yeah.
So I'd have to just suffer long because I wouldn't take it. And finally, I had OHSU in Portland, Oregon, done my surgeries, the bulk of them. And they put me on the long-lasting morphine.
Yeah.
And that was one. That was the ticket. Didn't make me all goofy in the damn head. I raised all 3 of my children my own self throughout all this. Well, I was taking like up to 800 milligrams was the highest I went. And then I dropped myself down to like 200, something like that. That was about my cutoff point. After that, it was just too much pain to get up and go do something,
So, Dr. Ibsen, is this typical of what you're seeing in your practice?
It is. It is. Essentially, our obligation as a physician when someone's in pain is to try to fix their pain. In other words, if your belly hurts, I'm going to examine your belly. If I think you have appendicitis, I'm going to refer you to a surgeon to get it out. If your back hurts or you have sciatica, I'm going to refer you to an orthopedist to see if you're a candidate for surgery. But someone who's had 7 surgeries on their back and has painful knees and has developed what I call a palliative care plan. This is Wayne's a kind of a patient that's not going to benefit from any more procedures. There's no more surgery that's going to relieve that pain. You can keep trying.
Excuse me, Doc. After I had my last surgeries at OHSU, all the doctors, the team, everybody got me together in a little room. And they told me that, now, Wayne, you're all solid down below here. That's not bending no more.
Yep.
So your bending is going to be taking place up above that. He said, now, those vertebrae, God didn't design those vertebrae to bend like that. He said, probably in 10, 12 years, you're going to start having some problems there. Well, I blew through the 10 or 12, and here I am at like 20, and it's starting to give me hell. I'm getting wraparound pains down my arms and dropping things that never used to happen.
Right.
And they've just done an MRI on me. They said, yep, the lumbar fusion was intact, narrowing in the space above the infusion at L3 and 4. And that's what I told them when they stuck me in the donut. I said, why don't you guys just go like 3 vertebrae up? Because that's where the problem is coming from right now. And no, they couldn't do that because it wasn't ordered, of course.
Yeah.
I've had every kind of a damn pill. I've been on Suboxone 2 different times to get off of narcotics. Go through all that. That's like 3-month ordeal. And I'd eat one of them pills, whatever it were. I don't even remember. And I'd feel like I just ate a big old handful of cotton balls in my stomach in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You've talked to the VA. You've talked to your congressional.
I've talked to them all.
You've talked to all your congressional, and have they offered you any help?
No. I talked to Zinke right over here at the Clinton Market when he was on his campaign. And I told him my problem. And if you ever have a problem, Wayne, just go into my office, call my office. Well, then he got moved up the ladder to Interior Secretary or whatever, so that took him out of the picture.
That's a sad thing.
Yeah,
I think any patient in your situation, Wayne, would feel powerless and feel suicidal even. It's like this is the kind you're having a kind of pain that makes people crazy.
Well, I have constant pain, 24/7.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just so hideous. It's not what you'd call chronic pain. It's acute pain. And I can't get it through anybody's damn head. There's times you just can't take enough of them long-lasting morphines to get on top of that acute pain. And so they were really big and generous, and they give me 1 20-milligram instant release a day. Wow. 9 months ago, I just had my first grandbaby. Used to be 2 years ago, I could stand up and hold whatever she weighs at 8 months old. Now, I had to lay down on my damn bed and hold my grandchild.
I'm so sorry.
That's horrible.
It sure is.
And it's unnecessary. That's the thing that gets me.
Me too.
Hey,
Wayne. More
Wayne.
about that.
They act like I'm some kind of a damn junkie or something. I don't know. It's the impression I get when I go talk to these people.
So they're blaming you for the results that you've had.
But that's what's made it so bad for all of us, is those junkies.
Well, I mean, people who are addicted, they need treatment too. They just need different treatment.
I just don't get it. I lost Dr. Selbach. She was a good one.
What happened?
She quit.
She left the VA.
Yeah. Why?
Well, because she couldn't do what the patients needed to have done.
Exactly.
And so they get a bunch of yes people in there.
They're not going to seem like they care for you because they can't.
I've done all this calling to congressmen, senators, all this, and I'm sitting here one day and I'm going to call the Humane Society. So I called the Humane Society. I said, if she was in just dire pain and I didn't do anything about it, well, what could happen? He said, well, we would send an animal control officer out there and we would confirm or deny that he was indeed in that kind of pain. And if he was, and if you weren't doing something to do something about it, we could arrest you and take you to jail for animal abuse.
Right.
I finally got something that worked, and then they cut me down to where it don't work.
For anyone else who's listening, this is the conundrum for a pain patient and a doctor who cares about them. Pain patients feel powerless, and so do doctors. His doctor was powerless. His doctor said, I'm leaving because they won't let me treat my patient. And then ultimately, we're doing this absurd response to an opiate epidemic, which is about heroin and not about Percocet or oxycodone or long-acting morphine. People who have been stable should never be cut off on their medications like Wayne had happen. People who want to come off their opiates, they find that they're irritable or they can't eat well or they have other side effects. People who want to come off their opiates do so successfully. But people who need them, it's like taking their lives away. It's like torturing them. It's like putting them in Guantanamo, keeping them awake, zapping them with a cattle prod, and playing the Barney song. All three stools of the torture stool are present in a fellow like Wayne. And it's criminal, it's inhumane, and it does not follow the Hippocratic Oath. And yet here we are. Okay.
Jason, comments?
No, it's just it's heartbreaking to hear a guy like Wayne. And, we hear it quite a bit. A lot of people who are struggling come to organizations, like River, and they're looking to us for help. A large part of the issue is the medical system. It's too cut and dry, and this is what we need to do. We need to cut everybody's opiate prescriptions in half. Yet medicine should be so individualized. Two people could be the exact same age, weight, have the same issues. One set of medications is going to work for somebody, and one's not. There's a lot of genetic factors and things like that. So it is heartbreaking to see a guy like Wayne, who actually does need opiates, not get them because of those guys, like he was saying, that are, junkies or, people who are abusing it. So, it is hard to see. I hope with this new health bill coming through that the Mission Act, that we can find some relief for Wayne and people like him.
Well, those that care, like myself and Dr. Ibsen, I wouldn't want to even suggest that I'm at your level, but we run the risk of being ostracized by our fellow peers, do we not?
Yes.
I mean, Dr. Ibsen went through 5 years of hell, and now everybody's all upset with me, and this is a good time for me to let our listening audience know that very shortly I'm going into semi-retirement. I'm going to work more on the research for suicide prevention. Dr. Ibsen is working with some of the staff that want to work with him to form an integrative medical clinic that will allow treatments for people like Wayne. One of the biggest, and I've been researching this, I'm looking at an article from the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology, and That's where the answers are. They're not in the United States anymore. They're outside the U.S. And it concluded that one injection of ketamine could last somebody like Wayne 3 months. Yet it's off-label. It's legal for Dr. Ibsen to prescribe it, but it is not billable to the VA. So even with the Mission Act.
Yeah. I think a key factor, what's going on with a patient like Wayne is we don't want to harm anybody. And people have come up with the idea that opiates are harmful. This is false. It's fake news. Opiates are harmful if you take a handful of them and die, but so are every other medication. So people who are stable are not harmed by staying on their stable opiate plan. Some people need to try to wean. Some people have side effects. Some people lose their pills and then they can't handle them responsibly. Well, they can't be on them if that's the case. But let me get to another term. And the other term is the term that Wayne was using about junkies. Junkies, alcoholics, people who have lung disease, people who have liver disease, these are people. And addicts just need a different treatment than pain patients. And addicts can get treatment these days. There's methadone clinics, there's Suboxone clinics, just like Wayne was mentioning. The problem is that pain patients who have become accustomed to their medications, they can't get treatment at all. And so it's logical for someone to feel upset that addicts are getting treatment and pain patients aren't. But that's like saying diabetics are getting treatment and blood pressure medicines aren't available anymore. It's crazy. And the ultimate factor here is that pain patients, addicts, doctors, chronically ill patients of any sort need a palliative care program. They need the kind of care that can happen when a doctor sits down with a patient, comes up with a differential diagnosis, then comes up with a plan for treatment of their problem, and then treats it appropriately. That is the medical model invented thousands of years ago. And we are abandoning it now. We're going into a checklist model. Oh, well, you're on this much? Well, you can't have that. And it's sort of like depriving people of oxygen or calories or water. Once you've become adapted to those medications, it's cruel and unusual punishment to take these medications away from people like this. Hopefully we can come up with some substitutes and some political answers to a medical problem, because the politicians and regulators are telling us how we should be practicing. Well,
it's been a fast-moving show this morning. I agree with you, but I'm one that has fought for 5 years, and I'm honored with all the trust that has been given to me by the veterans of Montana, but I just can't handle the witch hunts anymore. And I'm not the only one. And a lot of providers are feeling the same way, Mark.
Yeah. And I think it's a political season. Doctors are just too busy to advocate for themselves. And pain patients are too sick to advocate for themselves. I don't know what's going to happen in all that. But at some point, we've got to get the point across to the legislators, particularly, and the regulators and law enforcement, that taking pain pills away from stable patients is cruel. It deserves involvement with the ACLU or Human Rights Watch or the United Nations. You know, the UN could come in and examine what we're doing with our veterans who put their lives on the line for the rest of us in our society, have injuries, and then they come back to our culture and we don't treat them. And that's outrageous.
Thank you for coming on board. And thank you. Stay tuned to our Facebook pages. Dr. Ibsen, you have your own Facebook page. We're going to announce the opening of the ketamine clinic. You're going to be doing that. We're going to be hiring paramedics to do it. It's an answer. It's not the answer.
Right.
So, and of course, because the VA doesn't pay, we have to charge, and we're going to have to work on getting the cost way down there.
All right. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Mark.
So thank you very much for listening to Veterans Heartbeat. We'd not be able to bring it to you without all the support of the listeners. And thank you again to Farside Signs for sponsoring the show. If you do need a unique vehicle design, swing on by and check them out. Also, thank you to our main sponsor, River. River has an array of services such as veterans-focused education, a vestibular disorder clinic, and now non-pharmaceutical treatments for pain, anxiety, and depression. Check them out on Facebook or on the web at riverofchange.org. Lastly, we'd like to show our appreciation to all of our veterans. Thank you for serving our country and keeping it safe.